Hi everyone, good evening. It's Lloyd and I'm here with Shamoun Khaqan, and I'm just
Hello,
double checking
everyone.
that we have a good connection. Yes, YouTube says we have an excellent connection. Good evening, Shamoun. How are you doing?
I am great, and yourself, Lloyd?
No, good,
Fantastic.
thank you. No, good, thanks. Thanks for joining me again this evening to discuss the topic of Islam and women and provide some Christian
Absolutely.
perspective. Yep,
Glad to be here.
yep, glad to have you. Yeah, so do you want to give us some feedback that you received from the last couple of shows?
Yeah, so it's been an exciting journey this far, and one of the things that I personally have noticed in at least in my engagement with the viewers is that seemingly the Muslim community has stopped engaging with me at all at this stage. I'm not sure why. But yeah, that has happened. I have had some feedback from the Christian community thanking me on the subject, and thanking you as to like we're doing a fantastic work, really digging into the 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 sources, Islamic sources, and that we're exposing what Islamic perspectives really are. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's been the feedback so far. On your end, how's your feedback been so far?
Quite typical. I mean, I get the typical Islamic apologist deceit,
Yeah,
and I will ask them, I don't want your opinion on what the scholars say. I want you to tell me explicitly what the scholars say in the fiqh, the Islamic law of your school. And they will not do so. I did get two references to Islam QA, which is an unusual move for them to actually provide this. But in both
yeah,
cases, Islam QA actually confirmed what we said. However, what is notable is that on Islam QA, there's a certain, shall we say, lack of information. They they essentially confirm, but they fail to provide detail, and then they name a scholar, but they fail to really tell you where it's found. Whereas I can readily provide references and PDFs and citations and so on. Hi Steffi, hi Marek, welcome. Yeah.
yeah. That's a very good point because recently I've been, I don't want to be accused of being a, how can I say, somebody who's actually evaluating Islamic sources and being accused of not actually listening to Muslim theologians and Muslim scholars on the issue of women, etc. So I've been doing a lot of listening myself and a lot of reading myself. And one of the things that I've actually come across is I'll just take two specific names. The first one, Omar Suleiman from Yaqeen
Mm-hmm.
Institutes. And the other one is Manal Omar. This is a female Muslim, somewhat of a feminist. She's been working in the Muslim communities and the countries, trying to liberate and educate the Muslim community on the value that Islam puts on women. And both of them, Manal Omar and Omar Suleiman, both of them seem to say that there are countless scholars, Muslim scholars, that actually agree that Islam has a lot of value for women. Now, which scholars they don't actually say, but they do say that it's a lot of scholars. And Manal Omar actually went as far as, just like wanted to point out that Manal Omar went as far as saying that Islam was the first feministic movement. That's what she said. That was very interesting when I heard that. Not sure if I should. You guys can, for the viewers, if you guys want to hear that whole, I don't know if it's the talk, the lecture from Manal Omar. Um, I will try and put it on in the comment section, or perhaps let me just give it here. Jeebus, sorry about this. Okay, so Muslim women. The title of it is, sorry, it's loading. Yeah, Muslim women discussing removing their hijab at work. I feel so guilty. No, sorry, no.
Well, yeah, that's very interesting
Yeah,
because actually it is legal and it is obligatory that women cover themselves in front of men who are not their husband and not their child. So that would actually be illegal according to Islamic law, which is permanent for all time. So that would not at all be permissible. So the idea that this is feminist, it's interesting that they don't actually go into Islamic law, because this is what will be made mandatory law in an Islamic
No,
state.
and a very good point you've raised. Like the lady that she was Manal Omar, when she was talking about the issue of women, etc. Not once, and I challenge the viewers to go and watch the whole video of Manal Omar and go check it out for yourself. She did not quote the Islamic Sharia not once. She didn't talk about the hadith not once. She was just saying a whole lot of things without actually referring to any sources. So that was very, very interesting.
Okay. Yeah, let me bring something up. I'm just going to just just move this document over, and I'm going to just show a document on the screen. So Joseph Wales, Islam is horrifically against women and women's rights, freedoms, and independence. Look, this is true, but Islam has to lie to defend itself. Remember, it has to present itself in the best possible light, and therefore it even has to deny its own scriptures, like XYZ Shalom. And we have Steffi and Pixie. And yeah, so many guys. Welcome, guys. Let me just share my screen on this side. Let's look at the how feminist Islam is. If someone who engages in illicit sex, right, is a female, then he or she is stoned to death. So yeah, so it is so feminist that it will stone you to death, meaning anyone who's had sexual intercourse. That's fantastic. And of course, it's so feminist that you know, this line, if he or she has only had intercourse in a marriage that is invalid or is prepubescent at the time of marital intercourse, that is Sharia law.
Yeah.
So that's extremely
Yeah.
feminist. Let's have another look at what it says here. Let's have a look. And of course, let's look. If a woman falls pregnant and she's not married, the penalty is stoning. The offender is stoned even in severe heat or cold, and even if he has an illness from which he is expected to recover. A pregnant woman is not stoned, thank heavens, until she gives birth and the child can suffice with the milk of another. Then you can stone her to death. The men and the women can stand around and kill her with stones. This obviously still happens in the Islamic world. So yeah, that's extremely
Yeah.
feminist, don't you think?
Yeah, so once again, very troubling passages that we do find in the Islamic law. Before we kind of go into the video, I think this was just an introductory discussion. I wanted to
Mhm.
just quickly just say something, if that's
Sure.
okay. Um, for the Muslims in in the audience right now or in the future, whoever will be watching, I do want to say this is that I don't think Lloyd and myself claim to be professionals or scholars of Islam in any sense of the word. I think I am a student learning from Lloyd. Lloyd has been a student of Sharia for a very long time, and I'm sure as the viewers can see that he's done a great job in just kind of discovering all of the Sharia in itself. My challenge and my encouragement to the Muslim viewers is this: that if we are wrong anywhere, I'd like you guys to correct us, but do so within the sources that we are using, right? So for example, if the Sharia says that um, beating a wife is good, it's permissible, etc., that means that my encouragement would be is that I'm open to hearing from you as to how beating a wife is not good and how we have misunderstood that specific instruction in the Sharia or in the Quran or
Yeah.
wherever. And so far, all the classical scholars, classical scholars, have boldly claimed that beating of wives, etc., is all a good thing. It's all permissive, behavior. So
It's moral.
please,
It's right.
yes, it's Yes. So we are, I'm sure even Lloyd, I speak for Lloyd, I don't mean to, but I'm sure that that's his take as well, is show us from within the sources. What we're sharing with you is your sources. Show us from within it. Talk to us. We want to hear what you've got to say. Okay. So today's topic, quickly just jumping in. Lloyd, did you want to comment on what I just said before we get into it?
Yeah, with regard to, let's say, briefly want to make an diversion to, this again is Islam QA. This is a comment that someone made on the last show, right? And they were trying to deny that we were correct. And they quoted me this about, this is about the fact that Islam allows sex with prepubescent girls. And we just read a passage that spoke about the sex being permissible with a prepubescent girl. Is there a set age for marriage in Islam QA? And this guy says, I would like to know whether there's a set age for marriage in Islam for men and women. Please explain. And he asked about the Quran and Sahih hadiths. Now, notice it says here, the scholar says Islam does not give a specific age for marriage. That's very interesting. I wish lay Muslims would stop lying to me about this, because I've been saying this all along. Now, who's wrong? Me? Because the scholars of Islam agree with me. Are the scholars wrong? Does the lay Muslim know more than the scholars? I would think not, but let's go on. Right. He does go
Yeah.
on to say that he speaks of Aisha, marriage, and consummated when she was 9. Now, they go on and give a whole bunch of things, but the father should not give a minor daughter in marriage except in a case where he thinks it's in her best interests. Blah, blah, blah. Right? And a man should not consummate marriage with a young bride until she is physically able to bear intercourse. But this varies from one time, place, and environment to another. So, in other words, if she lives in a hot climate, it's okay because, as you know, um, yeah, whatever. Now, unfortunately, in none of these, now I've got two of these discussions here where they discuss child marriage in Islam is subject to the condition that it served. No, it does not. I'll tell you bluntly, these scholars are lying. They are flat out, totally, and completely just lying. If you'd like to prove me wrong, please go to the Umdat al-Salik, the Reliance of the Traveler, and go to the Hedaya, Volume 1, and show me from Islamic law, right? Now, if
Yeah,
a girl
and
passes puberty, yeah,
that is the challenge. Yeah.
right.
Right.
Now, it says that they take into consideration a emotional and mental readiness. Nonsense. Nonsense. The father can marry her when he feels he wants to. And they give all these wonderful quotes and they give all these wonderful stories. And unfortunately, they don't actually quote the law. So the scholars happily just lie to lay Muslims. They just absolutely and totally lie to her, lie to us all, in fact. So I don't know why they don't
Yeah,
open the
well,
fiqh books and
let
just
me
read the law. Yeah,
allow me to be a little bit more graceful here.
yeah.
I think that the majority of the Muslim community, I wouldn't necessarily say that they're lying. I think that some would, yeah, sure, I grant that. However, I think that there's also a lot of misinformation amongst the Muslim community at this stage, is that they actually believe that there's a lot of value for women, etc., etc. And I grant that
Well,
there are some
don't forget
scriptures
it's
that suggest that.
obligatory. It is obligatory for
Yeah.
the imam to lie to people if he believes it will keep the peace. If he must say something that is going to cause dissent, this is seen as a problem in Islam because this disparages Islam. The perfection of Islam is disparaged. Therefore, it is compulsory for him to lie to keep the peace. And we've discussed this in terms of the obligatory lying within Islam. So keeping the peace between people is important, and to lie for those conditions is not considered lying under Islamic law. I mean, I did cover this before
Yeah.
with you.
Yes, you did. Okay. So hopefully we will have some meaningful engagement today. And in the future, that if any one of our Muslim friends have anything to say in regards to the specific sources that we're going to share today, I hope that we will, that they will do so
Yeah.
and do so honestly. Okay, so today's topic is the low value of women in Islam. We're going to talk about four specific topics within this, umbrella topic, and that would be we'll deal with the issues Islam's low view of women's intellect, first of all, right? Second of all, are women seen as animals in Islam? And I truly am being as careful with my language, because somewhat this language is informed and is passed on to me from within the Islamic sources. So I'm not really enjoying this language, but it really
No,
it's given to us from within
yeah.
the sources. Number
Daughter
three
of
is
Al-Masi,
our
sorry,
pardon?
daughter of
Go ahead.
Al-Masi says, you must lie if the thing will cause fitna. And this is true because fitna, or temptation away from the religion of Islam, is worse than murder under Islamic tradition. So yes,
Yeah.
so they must lie. Go on, sorry, you were saying?
Okay. So the third issue that we'll deal with is, are women treated as possessions? And lastly, what is Islam's how does Islam view women and sex slavery? That would be issues of whether ISIS and their engagement of women captivating, uh, capturing women and making them sex slaves and all of that, is that
Right.
outside within the Islamic perspective, or does that fall right within the Islamic perspective? So all of those issues. Well,
Yeah.
we'll try to
Now,
cover all of that. We'll attempt to do so.
yeah,
Let's
I
see
do
how
want to
far
say
we
that I'm gonna touch on these, but the fourth topic, that one of sex slavery, I do want to note,
yeah,
and we did discuss this yesterday, that that is a fairly in-depth topic on its own. So today I can touch upon that, and I think that deserves its own actual discussion, where I would actually go through those sources in much more depth. For now, we'll touch on it from the typical sources, and I won't do too much of the Sharia, but the Sharia is a significant portion of the Sharia is dedicated to slavery within Islam. In fact, in a significant portion of commercial, the law of sales and commerce in Islam is dedicated to the sale of slaves. Because slavery
mm,
is legal within Islam, it has never been abolished and it can never be abolished. Don't forget, Muhammad owned slaves, Muhammad sold slaves, Muhammad's wife owned about 67 slaves, Muhammad's companions, Muhammad's son, they all owned, traded, bought, and sold, and owned sex slaves. So
okay.
this is Sunnah. And so yes?
So now I was just like saying, like, I think we can get into, because we're already
Yeah.
17 and a
Okay,
half
no, let's,
minutes
so,
in.
so let's get going. Yeah, so,
Okay,
um,
so the first one would be, is Islam's low view of women's intellect. How does Islam view the intellect of a woman?
okay, so I try to simplify. So what I've done is I've simplified one of my presentations on this, and I've just taken out what I think is relevant. So this should be in the rough order that we're discussing. So looking at, now, it does say in the Sharia, in section 025.3, a people that leave its leadership to a woman will never succeed. Right? And if I extract that passage, it says here, a male must be able to devote himself fully to the task of being a man and to mix with men, but the leadership of a woman is invalid because of the rigorously authenticated or Sahih hadith. A people that leaves its leadership to a woman will never succeed. And that's the word of Muhammad. So if women are that important in Islam and women are able to, why are there no female imams in the mosques? That's a good question to ask. So you need to ask, so Muhammad said this, so was Muhammad a liar? Or is Islam right about women, that any organization, any group led by a woman will never succeed? In other words, anything that a woman leads will fail. Your thoughts?
Hmm. Yep, I've got my own research here that it's in line with that, but I want you to kind of keep going. I'll get
Okay,
to
so women are
my
described.
response to this.
Okay, so women are described in the Quran as inferior to men because it says in the Quran, men are a degree above women. That's Quran 2, 228. So, for instance, let's have a look at a handful of hadith. I want to go through, and these are repetitive for a reason. So, I want to show you how often this appears. Allah's messenger went out to blah blah blah, and he said to the women, I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of hell were you women. They asked, why is
Hmm.
that so? And he said, you curse frequently. You are ungrateful to your husbands. I have not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. In other words, Muhammad told the women, I haven't seen anyone more stupid than you are. Yeah.
Just a quick response on this this
Mm-hmm.
hadith here. Um, just to just in case you within the audience get a response, or the Muslim, if there's a Muslim watching, if your response is that this hadith is not authentic, you should actually read Ibn Kathir on this specific hadith, and he actually affirms that this specific hadith is accurate. That I
Yeah.
have seen that the majority of dwellers of hell fire were you women. He actually
No,
affirms
I'll
that.
go through.
Ibn Kathir.
I'll
So
go through that in a minute. Yeah,
yeah,
this is repeated in
yeah,
Sahih Bukhari. Okay, volume 2, book 24, hadith 541. As you know, this is volume 1, book 6, hadith 301. Right. Let's have another look. The
yeah,
Prophet said, "Isn't the witness of a woman equal to half that of a man?" Because it says here, "Is not the evidence of two women equal to the witness of one man?" They replied,
yeah.
"This is the deficiency in her intelligence." Muhammad said women are stupid. Let's be honest. He said women are deficient in intelligence. And he said, and the women said yes, the women agreed that their witness is only, their testimony is only worth half that of a man. And he said, this is because of the deficiency of a woman's mind. Hi, Niklas, welcome. Good to have you. Yes, so women, let's have a look. Let's continue. That is, of course, Bukhari, volume 3, book 48, hadith 826. These blue
And
are the
it's
links here.
could I quickly just
Sure.
point out something is that in the hadith Sahih Bukhari, um, the women replied to their own, you know, deficiency, intellectual deficiency. The women are actually replying in affirmative to what the Prophet, the Islamic Prophet, is saying. That's a very
Well, you don't want to
interesting.
get
It's
beaten,
just
do
like,
you?
pardon,
You don't want to disagree and get
pardon.
beaten, do you?
Yeah, that kind of like is like a telling sign, if I'm like sitting here, the psychology behind a woman at that stage, speaking in front of people and says, oh yes, Muhammad prophet, I am an idiot. I'm less intelligent than you. It's a fascinating, I must say, response from any woman to actually to
Yeah.
a male.
Where does
Anyways, let's
Jesus say that
continue.
women have deficient minds, that women are half as intelligent as men, that any statement about a woman is
Nowhere,
only
man.
half trustworthy?
Nowhere at all. Proverbs 31, verse 26, actually clarifies for us that she opens her mouth with wisdom, that there is wisdom that comes out of her mouth. She is so wise, and a woman is so wise, and she is so able and with such great capacity that she actually takes control of her home financially and in many different regards. So this definitely is completely antithetical to the Christian view of women. Definitely.
Right. So, of course, Muhammad goes on and repeats himself. I looked at hell and saw that the majority of its inhabitants were women. Women are evil. They lead men astray. He says so above. Women lead men astray. Men will be led astray by some of you. Right. He says that women will be led astray. Now, then he continues and repeats this. Right. The Prophet said, I looked at paradise and saw that the majority of its residents were the poor. And I looked at the hellfire and saw the majority of its residents were women. Again, Bukhari 762 126, and we can see him repeat this at least 6 more times, right? This is just
Yeah, and
Bukhari. This is just
sorry.
Bukhari. Never mind
Yeah.
the other hadith collections that repeat the same message dozens of times. Yes? Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted to say that the fact that they are in hell is directly connected to their intellectual incapacity that women actually have. Is that but could I quickly go through Surah
Sure.
282? Okay, so
Yeah, do you want me to
Surah
bring that up?
2, verse,
Actually, I'll bring that up.
yeah,
Yeah.
you can, yeah, sure, yeah. Surah 2, verse 282. Verse 282. Okay, so in this here, what's happening is that there's a financial, situation going on whereby a law, a judgment must be passed on a financial issue, and the Prophet is actually talking about, and he says that, okay, if there is one man present to give a witness on a financial issue, instead of having two men, what you can have is one man and two extra women, because one woman makes up half of a man's, testimony. I'm sure you know that, Lloyd. You're the
Yeah.
one who
No,
actually
that's in the
introduced
law.
me to
That's in
that as
Sharia
well.
law. That's
Yeah,
covered in
and
depth there. Yeah.
and and Ibn Abbas actually comments on it, and he says that the reason why a woman's testimony is half of that of a man, because she is forgetful. That by nature, a woman is forgetful. I'm not sure how that is actually. Why is that like yeah, there we go. That a woman is by nature forgetful. Al Jalalain actually says that women, now this one I found very, very interesting. He says that women, because in understanding, they are lesser in astuteness and accuracy. And for those who don't know, astuteness means the ability to accurately assess situations. So women are less able to to accurately assess situations. Now, this is an Islamic perspective as to why a woman's testimony is half of a man, because she does not have the intellectual capacity to actually kind of reason as well as a man. Her reasoning is of a lower quality, right? Another one is Ibn Kathir, who actually talks about that the shortcomings, it is because of the shortcomings of a woman, that intellectual shortcomings, which actually lead a woman now to to actually encourage the prophet to actually even say that she's going to go to hell because she is intellectual incapable, right? And so that is
Okay.
the reason why women go to hell. Women go to hell because they
Ah,
are lesser in astuteness, in
yeah,
accuracy, they're
yeah.
forgetful, and women go to hell because they just have an intellectual shortcoming. That
Well, he
is
says, yeah, as for the
Islamic
shortcomings
perspective.
on, yeah, he does say,
Yeah,
as
go
for the
ahead.
shortcoming in her mind, the testimony of two women equals the testimony of one man. And this is the shortcoming of her mind. And also, women have a shortcoming in religion, right? So,
Yep.
so yeah. And in fact, if you look at deeds of sale, for instance, if you want to provide, be it a marriage witness, you need two women versus one man. If you want to make a sale and you need a witness, a man as a witness, you'll need two women. So everywhere that there's one man, there's always, or two men, there'll be two or four women. So this is all of the Sharia law like this as well. Yeah,
Yeah, so
and
it's an interesting perspective, definitely.
so Daughter of Al-Masi says Muslims respond with their feelings, not their sources. Now I need to specify, I need to stipulate here that Muslims are not able to, and they are unable to, they're not allowed to, they will not, they cannot ever reveal the Sharia to you, to me, to anyone, because they may not reveal the Sharia to anybody who is not going to use it to become a Muslim, who will use it for an unjust purpose, which would be like we do, to mock it or to criticize it. So that is the first thing. Two, they will be revealing the secrets of the Muslims. They will be committing treason against the Islamic State. They will be revealing the weaknesses and the secrets of the Muslims. This makes them enemies of Islam. They are possibly apostates, and they may be blasphemers, and they could be put to death for this action. Three, it is tradition, and this is under Bukhari in his letter to an adopted son, I believe, or something like that. It says, for a Muslim to know the Sharia means he must act upon it, because who can read this and not be overwhelmed by its beauty, its majesty, its perfection, its truth, by its overwhelming righteousness, and not want to act upon it? And if you know it and you don't do it, A, you'll be punished and go to hell, and B, you will be looked down upon by the Muslim community for having the knowledge and not applying it and walking away from the truth of Islam. So there are at least
Hmm.
four prohibitions and laws that state that one, it's a secret. Two, they cannot give it to us unless we're going to become a Muslim. Three, it's treason. And four, if they know it and don't act upon it, they are sinning and they can be punished, right, by Allah and here on earth. So for multiple reasons, they absolutely positively cannot ever reveal this to you. I have given them the links. I said, here's the book, here's the page, here's the reference. Read it to me. Just copy and paste it and give. They will never do it. Never. Never been done. I'm still waiting for it to happen because they know. They know what's in their law. Moving on, sorry. Many of them do, rather. The apologists online, they know, and they are terrified of it. Shamoun, your thoughts?
Yeah, that's why, at this stage, going to the Sharia is still, at least in experience with my Muslim friends is a bit of a daunting task. At this stage, what my
Hmm.
encouragement would be is just even open up Surah 2, Al-Baqarah, and go open verse 282. And just begin there for a moment. For a
Oh,
moment, just
282.
begin
So
there.
4282, not. Well, my bad. I
Yeah,
thought it was
282.
282.
Yeah,
282 or 2.282?
282. 282.
Okay, so no wonder I had it wrong. So, okay, 282. Okay, yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah. Okay, yeah, so
So,
two,
yeah.
yeah. Okay, now, well, look, I've got similar references already in my notes here. So I will and do cover these here as well. Um, yeah, I just want to bring up a few odd points here and there as we go, but understand that women have half the intelligence of a man, right? Also, you need to note that a Christian is half the value of a Muslim, right? You have half the value, you have half the legal value of a
Oh
Muslim.
yeah, it does even speak about the Muslim. Yes, yes.
Yes.
Non-Muslims are equal as a woman. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
actually true.
Actually, no, you're
In
half the
this, it's
value of a
very
Muslim.
same verse.
Actually, yeah, you are half, technically, you are half the value of a Muslim. So
Yeah,
a Christian is
that's
half the value of a Muslim. A Muslim is twice the value of a Christian. So an average Muslim is taught that he is twice your value. But of course, the average Islamic
yeah.
apologist is half
Once
the value
again,
of a woman, or maybe a quarter. I don't know.
once
I'm still
again,
trying to
just
figure that
open.
out. Yeah, sure.
Once again, the audience could just perhaps even begin with Surah 2, Al-Baqarah, verses 282, and then take it from there, and you will clearly see what who's got the upper hand in even regarding testimonies, etc. Very interesting stuff. Very
Yeah, if
interesting
we look
stuff.
at, okay, these are the tafsirs, and just take the, so 282. Now, for 282, we have five tafsirs and five hadiths, right? So if we go to the hadiths for 282, we'll see here, they'll speak about, so these are the five hadiths that deal with this passage, which is useful on Quranics.com as I'm using. So you can see here, I've not seen anyone, Muhammad says, I've not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence and religion than you. So Muhammad loved to insult women. Now, Muslims love to bring up the verse that says, the hadith that says, paradise lies at the feet of the mother. This is a verse, or this is a narration on jihad. It is not a narration on peace. It is not a narration on peace and respect for your mother. It's actually a narration about jihad, about warfare and killing. So yeah, Muslims are just really just not honest. So he says that the deficiency in her intelligence, the deficiency in her religion, what is deficient in our intelligence, and he says, is not the evidence of two women. So that's the one. Let's see, here's another one. I've not seen anyone more deficient in intelligence than you. This is Muhammad telling women. This is because of the deficiency in a woman's mind, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, there'll be others, but yeah. So this is what happens within Islam. Yeah. Any comments from you before I go on?
There was another when we were doing can men beat their wives in Islam? There was another one where you brought up where her intelligence is compared to that of a donkey,
I'll get to that. Yeah, I'll get
if
to
I
that.
remember.
Yeah. Also, notice that within the Islamic Sharia, they do lie. They do whitewash the text. So you've got to double check and triple check these things. Um, so just note that that's not entirely accurate. For instance, but notice here, for instance, Aisha asked the Prophet, should women be asked for their consent to marry? And he said yes. And then I said, a virgin, if asked, feels shy and she keeps quiet. He then said her silence means her consent. So if a man asks a woman to be married and she says nothing, that's, yeah, go ahead, marry her.
Hmm.
So if she's afraid of speaking because her dad will beat her to death or something, that's yes. So it's better to be silent and just comply. So, because if she says no, well, there will be consequences. Uh, yes, there is no age of consent for marriage. If she's under the age of puberty, her father can marry her off at any time, and sex with her is permissible. Uh, yeah, so just note. Okay, let's continue. And coincidentally, here it is, Hadith number 490. narrated on the authority of Aisha, who, as we know, was an enemy of Islam. And I will tell you this, the Islamic scholars have no problem throwing Aisha under the bus and calling her a liar when they need to. When she contradicts Muhammad, they'll simply say Muhammad's word undoubtedly outweighs Aisha's, and Aisha is just wrong. They'll flat out say so. It's crazy. There are three things which annul the prayers which were mentioned before me. They said prayers annulled by a dog, a donkey, and a woman if they pass in front of the praying people. Now, this is in brackets, so this is not in the original. Okay. And I said, you have made us women dogs. So Aisha says that Muhammad has made women into dogs, put them on the same level as dogs. Narrated Aisha, the things which annul the prayers were mentioned before me. Prayers annulled by a dog, a donkey, and a woman. I've said, you have made us women dogs. And now, of course, the rest of it goes, I saw the Prophet praying while I used to lie in my bed between him and the Qibla. Whenever I was in need of something, I would slip away, for I disliked to face him. And remember, we discussed last week that if a woman dislikes her husband, she must be beaten. Do you recall that? You said that?
Yeah, definitely. That's Surah 434. It's a commentary on Surah 434 from
Yeah.
Ibn
And it
Kathir.
says, and
That.
again, in do you make us women equal to dogs and donkeys? This is what Aisha asks, right? Do you make us women equal to dogs and donkeys? Here we another example. It is not good that you people have made us, that's the Muslims, have made us women equal to dogs and donkeys, right?
Yeah. So just a note. I
Yep.
think we've moved on to our second issue to to be concerned about is, are women considered as animals in Islam? And yeah, so I think that's what we're talking about right now for those
So
in the
are there
audience.
any Christian analogs to this? I mean, is there any, does Jesus call women dogs and donkeys? Does he
Yeah.
say that?
You asked me to look for a verse that is antithetical to whatever we're going to talk about. And in regards to this one, women are as animals. I promise you, I couldn't think of a verse that would be, antithetical to this. Women are equal to men. There's no consideration of whether women are like animals or anything in that line. So I really struggle to get a verse or a scripture in that regard, because women are looked upon as very much equal. I just perhaps a verse that we will stick with us right through the discussion is Galatians chapter 3 verse 28. Of course, this verse needs a little bit more
Okay.
exegetical understanding, but it says, there is neither Jew nor Greek, there is neither slave nor free, there is neither male and female, for you are all one
Which
in
Galatians
Christ
passage was that,
Jesus.
please?
Galatians chapter 3, verse 28.
Okay, just bringing it up. Yeah. You are all one in Jesus Christ. Now, lots of Islamic apologists um, or propagandists for Islam will say women are equal. No, women are only equal when they are judged in front of Allah. That's the only time women will be equal. Until then, women are not equal to men. Please show me explicitly in
Yeah,
Islamic law where this is the case. Yeah.
but it does seem to, though, yes, women are equal in front of Allah, but it
At
it
the
it
time of
seems
judgment.
like it, but it also doesn't seem like it
No,
at
I
the
mean
same
at
time,
the
at
time
least
of
in
judgment,
my.
after they're dead. After they're dead and they appear
Yeah.
before Allah, then they are equal. Until then, no.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So the animal issue. I'm not sure if the audience have gotten a few. I've got Sahih Bukhari Hadith 484. Do you have that one?
I
I'm pretty sure
probably
you.
do.
I heard you reading it out.
Yeah, no, there's multiple duplicates though. There are many, many duplicates that say the very same thing. So 486 will say the same thing. 498 says the same thing. So multiple of them. I'm not quoting every single one of them though, but multiple of them say the same thing. But go ahead.
Yeah, you have compared us women to donkeys and dogs.
Yep.
There's another one. It's um pretty strong as well. Okay, so this one is Abu Dawood, Hadith 704. It says, narrated Abdullah ibn Abbas said, I heard Jibr ibn Said, who reported on the authority of Ibn Abbas, and Shubha reported the Prophet, peace be upon him, as saying, a menstruating woman and a dog cut off prayer. Isn't that interesting?
So yeah, here we go. This is it.
You've got
Qatada
it?
said, I heard Ibn Zayd reporting the authority of Ibn Abbas. The Prophet said, a menstruating woman and a dog cut off the prayer. And yeah, that is true. For book 2, hadith 703. Yeah, that's right here.
That a menstruating woman and a dog cut off women. But if a, I'm not sure why. I would actually love to get a deep perspective on this as well.
Well,
Is
don't
that
forget the
why
other
would
hadith
Allah
don't
create a woman? Yeah, go ahead.
the other hadith don't specify menstruation. However, blood is considered filthy, dirty in Islam. Right? Blood is considered filthy. It's dirty. It's unclean. They call it najasat, right? So
Yeah,
therefore, women are dirty. Women are unclean.
I get that. I get
Yeah.
that women are dirty, but to kind of like go on a limb there and say that menstruating women, it could have ended where menstruating women are not clean or something in those lines. Uh, It's a really an unhelpful perspective to promote when somebody says a menstruating woman and a dog cut off the prayer. Like it just seems unnecessary at this point as to why is there such a emphasis
Well,
on women being
because
compared with animals.
women are considered. Okay, let's have a look. Let's add some perspective to this. Right. It was narrated by Abdullah bin Abu Awful, who said blah 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 blah. He prostrated to the Prophet, who said, "Who is this?" And he said blah blah blah. And he said, "If I were to command anyone to prostrate to anyone other than Allah, I would have commanded women to prostrate to their husbands." Okay? No woman can fulfill her duty towards Allah until she fulfills her duty towards her husband. And what's her duty towards her husband? Well, let's find out. If he asks her for sex, even if she's on her camel saddle, she should not refuse. Remember, if a woman refuses to have sex with her husband at any given time, whenever he demands it, the angels will curse her till the morning. So, in other words, the
Yeah.
woman is there to serve the sexual impulses, needs, desires of the Islamic man, right?
Hmm.
And so this is also repeated. Now that's Ibn Majah, 1853 and 1854. So she should surrender herself to him for sexual intercourse. I didn't write that, right? Now, yeah, any comments on that?
I've got another one. If you could perhaps open it, if you could search for this one. This
Yeah,
one's also it's got very strong language. Abu Dawud, Hadith 703.
Abu
Abu
Dawud
Dawud,
703, yeah.
Hadith 703. You've got it?
Let's see. Uh, Let me see if I can find it. Otherwise, I will have to just go to it.
Okay,
Okay,
because
now,
let me quickly read
well,
what
what's
it
in it?
says.
Because normally I search for the words within it, but that's fine.
Okay,
Abu
it
Dawud.
says, the Messenger of Allah, peace be upon him, said, when one of you prays without a sutra, a dog,
Oh,
an
here we go.
ass, a pig, a Jew, a magician, and a woman cut off his prayer. But it will suffice if they pass in front of him at a distance over a stone throw. Very interesting. Very, very
Right.
interesting.
Yeah. It should be noted that if someone passes in front of you while you're praying, you're allowed to kill them. Right. I have covered this previously in other shows where if someone passes in front of you while praying, you may get up, you may push them, and if they die in the process, that is fine. That's perfectly legal in Islam. So someone can be killed for walking in front of you while you are praying. Um, but yeah, so Hadith 703 brings up a different, so you must be thinking of a different Hadith or different reference. That's
Are
how.
you talking to me?
Yes.
Okay, this one is Abu Dawood,
Yeah, I was at Abu Dhabi 703. It's a slightly different one.
70
Yeah. But just says a
703.
menstruating woman and a dog cut off the prayer. It depends on what reference you're using. There are three different ones. So 703 could be 928 or 3412 in a different reference system. So it depends on which
Oh,
reference
okay.
system you're using. Um,
Okay.
yeah, so they could have totally different numbers in different reference systems. Okay, yeah.
It
So
says
maybe
Al-Bani
yeah,
classified it as daif. Uh, don't know what that
daif.
means.
Uh,
Daif.
Da'if
Yeah.
is weak in theory, but any hadith that is da'if is still true because the probability that it's true is greater than the probability of it being false, and it can be used in the Sharia to make law. And if it's a reference to the Prophet, then it is considered to be true.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's
So
so far
yeah.
so very interesting stuff. I think we've got a few minutes. Do you want to jump on to are women treated as possessions? Do you want to
Yeah.
quickly go there?
So I can bring up a few things. So for instance, the command of the hijab, right? So I'll just add some roundabout perspective on that. So Allah tells His Messenger to command the believing women, especially His wives and daughters, because of their position of honor, to draw their jilbabs over their bodies so that they will be distinct in their appearance from the women of the Jahiliyyah and from slave women. Slavery. That will be
Hmm.
better that they should be known so as not to be annoyed. Now, when He says here annoyed, they mean molested. So that someone who's not covered can be molested. So you need to command your women, you need to tell them what to wear, and they have to listen to you. You have to tell your wife to get off her camel and come and service you because that is what her role is. This is what she needs to do. So she is, in fact, your servant or your slave. If they do that, it will be known that they are free and that they are not servants or whores. That's Tafsir ibn Kathir, right? Now, of course, women's observing the hijab in front of strange men and covering their faces is obligatory, right? And that's a ruling from Islam QA. So that is very much obligatory. Yeah, your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
And
it's
I was going to go to, um,
jumping
uh,
probably.
yeah, I need to get some other references, but for instance, gosh, I just got to find the references where also a woman may not leave the house without the permission of her husband. I think I may have put this at the bottom. Here we go. Sorry. So, for a woman to pray, for a woman to go on a prayer retreat requires the husband's permission. It is not permissible for a wife to make spiritual retreat without a husband's permission. She can't even go and spend time praying without the permission of a husband. And it is not lawful, this is in the Sharia, for a wife to leave the house except by the permission of her husband.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
I've also got. I'm not sure if you've heard of Bill Warner. Bill Warner.
Bill Warner, yes.
He is. Yeah. So he made a comment which I was listening to his perspective on Surah 434. And one of the things that he actually says is that if men and women are equal, and if women are not possessions of men, why is it that in the entire Islamic sources, right, women can't hit men? If Surah 434 says that a, a disrespectful woman needs to be beaten and be disciplined in different ways, what happens to a disobedient or a disrespectful husband? And that in itself, and I must say that
Nothing.
one Bill Warner's point was very striking at this point, is that my goodness, I actually never thought about it. Like that a Muslim woman is beaten, but what happens to the man? And this just further like strengthens the case is that women are possessions of men. Men are able to do certain things to women that women do not have the right to do to men. It's like, forgive me once again for using this language, but I hope that by now you will understand that this language is actually kind of transferred to me from within the sources, and that is that it's the way that I treat my dog. If my dog, kind of behaves out of line, I hold the collar and I just like jerk
Yeah.
it to correct the dog. Is that what you're
Well,
doing is
I will
wrong?
get to that.
The
Actually, I'll
dog
get to
doesn't have
that in
the
a
right to
moment.
do that to me.
Yeah, I'll
Yeah,
get to that. In
the
fact, so the
dog doesn't
Prophet
have the.
said, a
Okay.
man will not be asked why he beat his wife. That's Sunan Abu Dawud. Okay, that is Book 11, Hadith 2142 or Hadith 2147. So, man will not be asked as to why he beat his wife. So, this is not a question that will come up against men. And if we do this, oh gosh, I need to go back to that reference that I just had down below. So, prior to the discussion here, sorry, let me just find that again. Uh, Ah, don't know. Just keep going. I need to find this reference where
Yeah. So what I was saying is that when Bill Warner brought up this idea, the fact
mhm,
that the women are are disciplined and men are not, and this is not an issue of opinion that men are not disciplined. It's a factual issue. It's an exegetical issue from within the Islamic sources that you can
yeah,
find that men are not disciplined. Men
no, they're
are
not
somewhat not accountable to women, but women are accountable to men.
to men.
And in the treatment, what you see is that anything that's not
Mm,
accountable to me, and I mean, I'm not accountable to anyone else, but everything is accountable to me. The logical conclusion that I arrive to is a fact
mhm.
that it is my possession. No one has
Well,
the
let's.
right to question me on my possessions, on the way I treat them.
It says no man will be asked why he beats his wife. Well, let's have a look at
You
this is
see?
Tafsir
Exactly.
Jalalain related to 434. Men are in charge of. They have authority over women. So men are in charge of women. They have authority over women, disciplining them and keeping them in check. Like you said, the way you keep a dog and discipline a dog. So Allah has preferred one over the other. So He has preferred men over women. Allah has given them, men, the advantage over women in knowledge, in reason, authority, and otherwise. So in all ways, men are
Well, well,
superior
Ibn
to women.
Kathir, Ibn Kathir. If you go to Ibn Kathir on Surah 434, the language that he uses is a bit more striking. You know, the Salafis had a very
Yeah.
how can I
Yeah,
say
but notice,
puritanical way of
well,
speaking.
well, Ibn Abbas says men are in charge of women. They're in charge of overseeing the proper conduct of women. So they're responsible for how women behave. Women have to listen to men. And Ibn Kathir says men are the protectors and maintainers of women, meaning the man is responsible for the woman and he's her maintainer, caretaker, and leader who disciplines her if she deviates. And we know how they discipline her.
One of I found Ibn Kathir to even say that the reason why this is the issue is because women, I mean men, are better than women. Have you,
Yeah,
if you
depends
want
on
to
the
quickly
translation you
open that?
look at. It's going to depend on the translation. So whoever translated it, if you get the CSPI book on the doctrine of women, that does go into some detail. I forgot about that. I actually have a copy of it, but certainly
Okay.
this does cover some of these things like Muhammad's family life, jealousy, Muhammad's wives beating the wife, sex, marriage. This will cover some of that. Yeah, you know. So yeah, so his book does cover some of that. His doctrine of women book, and so yeah, there is this issue that there's very clear instruction that men are in charge of women, and women have to simply listen, and men have to keep them in check. In other words, women are unruly animals that misbehave, and men have to treat them like children, like animals. Because remember, I've provided other references prior to this where women are like cattle.
Yeah.
You might remember when I stated that they explicitly state
Yes, you
women are
did.
like cattle. Actually, let me see if I have it here. No, it's not in this one. So yeah, women are like cattle. But so this is something that they do state. Actually, let me see if I can find it here.
Hmm. Just in in reference to the whole issue of possessions, I just wanted to kind of, as you're bringing out the Islamic sources, wanted to bring out and just make aware once again the Christian audience and those potentially from within the Muslim community watching that the Christian perspective is completely antithetical to this whole possession idea. If you notice Ephesians chapter 5 verse 21, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of God. The level of equality and the level of independence is unheard of. I must say. Then you've even got Proverbs chapter 31 that reassures the women within a community, that and within your home, that you've got so much rights as to, and your ability is one that can supersede the man greatly. You've got ability. You can go out and start working. You can take charge of your home in different ways, etc. And so what you've got over here is this whole idea of possession within Islamic perspective, is definitely antithetical to the Christian perspective.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Well, let's look at this passage here, this brief one. A woman, this is Aisha speaking in Sahih Bukhari 72715. A woman came to Mo, oops, a woman came to Mo and begged him to stop her husband from beating her. Her skin was bruised so badly that it is described as being greener than the veil she was wearing, the green veil. Muhammad did not admonish her husband, but ordered her to return to him and submit to his sexual desires. This is the perspective on women. Now, I don't recall that Jesus told people go back and have your husband have his way with you, and don't complain if he beats you because you're being beaten because you're not a good wife. Yeah, this is pretty much the case. Aisha said, "I've not seen any woman suffering as much as the believing women." Sahih Bukhari. So women were abused because if they did not behave the way the men wanted them to, they were beaten into shape. So yeah, this is it. And yeah, also I want to bring up a couple of other things as we slowly sort of wind down. I want to bring on some other things here. Aisha says, if you knew the rights, and I've said this before, but if you knew the rights that your husbands have over you, every one of you would wipe the dust from a husband's feet with her face, right? And Aisha urged women to take good care of their husbands and to recognize the rights their husbands had over them. She saw these rights as being so great and so important that a woman was barely qualified to wipe the dust from her husband's feet with her face. Your thoughts on that?
Jeez, man. Um, yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's a bit shocking. Um, okay, so we're still on the issue of possession, right? Yeah.
yeah. I was going to
Um,
talk about sex slavery,
we
but maybe that's a good topic
yeah
to
we
actually
are
tackle. Yeah,
we are literally 2.5 minutes left on time.
yeah,
I just wanted to quickly just say something, make an observation in Surah 2, uh, verse 282, Maududi's
yeah.
commentary, and
That guy's
kind of
fascinating. Yeah,
compare it with Matthew chapter 19, if that's okay.
sure, sure.
Okay, so Maududi on the issue of women's, inability, intellectual ability, he makes a comment and he says that the women, let me just quickly read it, Maududi 222. He says, first, those who have ill tempered wives, but do not divorce them. Second, those who are entrusted with the property of orphans, but return to them before they attain maturity. Third, those who lend money to others without. Okay. Anyways, the point was that there is, it seems like within the Islamic community, ill tempered wives can be divorced. Am I correct?
Yes. Here we go. Ill-tempered
Okay.
wives.
Okay, so ill-tempered wives are divorceable, like, because that's why Maududi brings up is that, there are three kinds of people. These are three kinds of people, and they are those who have ill-tempered wives and have not divorced them. Uh, Implication being that there are those situations where ill-tempered wives are divorced, and it seems like it's an okay practice. Am I correct?
You can divorce a wife who annoys you if she does. Remember, if she does not obey you, and of course, that is your first divorce is not considered a binding divorce. It's not
Okay,
considered
now,
irrevocable. Yeah,
yeah, you see now, just kind of like looking at that comparatively with the Christian perspective, where Jesus actually comes through in Matthew 19, and he's talking to his disciples and people around, and they actually asked, verse 3, the Pharisees also came unto him, tempting him and saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? Right? And Jesus answered unto them, says, have you not read that he which made them at the beginning made them male and female, and said, for this cause shall a man leave father and mother, and shall cleave to his wife, and they twain shall be one flesh. Wherefore they are no more two, but one flesh. What therefore God had joined together, let not man put asunder. And then he kind of like continues to talk about the fact that Moses actually, because of the hardness of man's heart, Moses allows divorce, but it was not so from the beginning. And
Hmm.
the value, once again, the value of woman from the Islamic perspective is once again even shown in this whole idea of divorce, is that simple ill-temperedness may lead to divorce. And Christ, on one hand, says, on the other hand, rather, says that divorce in no cost is actually allowed. From the beginning, it was not so. You guys have an issue. Your hard heartedness is the issue to why
Mm.
divorce is actually then permitted by Moses. But now I'm going to tell you something else. Divorce is not allowed unless there's adultery involved. There's adultery kind of occurring within the marriage and stuff. And
Hmm.
at that point, this in itself tells me, greatly shows me the Islamic perspective, comparatively up against the Christian perspective as to how these two worldviews view women.
Yeah,
On the
Niklas
one
brings up a
hand,
very good point.
yeah, go ahead.
A man can divorce a woman up to 3 times, right? A woman can't do the same.
Yeah,
She doesn't have the same rights of divorce as a man. I mean, I can actually go, that would be a separate show to actually bring up the laws and discuss the laws from the books in detail, the laws of marriage and divorce. That would be a separate show just to discuss that and to discuss slavery laws, sex slavery and so on, which would have made this a very long show. But yeah, there's a gender imbalance, and there's a certain highly misogynistic approach to, Islam is right about women. Think of the whole flap that caused when those little flies went out. Um, but certainly, I mean, women are compared to dogs, to donkeys. Women are impure. Women are unclean. Women are in hell. Women are deficient in intelligence. Women are stupid. And this is from the founder of the religion, talking about women in the most disparaging manner. Women may be beaten. Women have to submit to their husband sexually. Is there any equivalent like this in the New Testament?
definitely not. Definitely not. The words of Christ are in itself speak very loudly. In Matthew 19, verse
5.
4, and he answered and said unto them, have you not read that which he made them at the beginning, made them male and female? There's such a strong emphasis on the equality of men and women within the Christian worldview, that it definitely is. There's a strong antithesis to the Islamic perspective of women, definitely. So
Yeah,
yeah, it's so we've I think it's time that we need to close up. We've I've been
sure.
having a good time.
Yeah,
So okay, so just kind of a quick summary, and then I don't know if you wanted to take a question or two. I've got a comment here from Gospel Edge. Thank you for joining us, Gospel Edge. I'll just read out your comment just now, but I wanted to quickly
yeah.
just provide a summary. The low value of women in Islam, is that true or is it false? I think that we have spoken through the sources. Um, Whether you want to accept it or not, that would definitely be up to you. But we have been able to successfully, at least in my perspective, successfully shown that women in Islam are seen as, I like the word that Al Jalalain used, they are lesser in astuteness, which means the lack of ability to accurately assess situations. I like that word. It's an intelligent word. It's attractive, at least to me. Okay, so women are not as smart, as clever as men. They are forgetful by nature, and they have an intellectual shortcoming. Okay, Second of all, women are compared to animals, pigs, ass, dogs, you name it. The other thing is that are women treated as possessions? Definitely, we have seen that. We've provided this discussion from Surah 434 and just different perspectives as well. So, our definitely my encouragement is to go through the video. Whoever I see that I'm actually
Hmm.
getting more views now. If you do want to look at our our video, please kind of
Yeah, Gospel
watch it
Edge.
from the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I want to quickly read out the comment of Gospel Edge. He says, "No woman can fulfill what for man. Can man fulfill duty of Allah if he did not fulfill the duty to his wife?" Lloyd, are you seeing that comment?
Yeah, I see it. It's up on the screen, but
No.
uh, I mean,
Yeah.
his last comment is baby
I'm
producing
struggling
machines.
to.
Effectively, women are. Remember, a man marries for sex in Islam, according to Islamic law. We covered that in the very first show when we discussed marriage in Islam and child marriage. Women are, according to Islamic law, men marry for sex, right? The reason for having a woman is because you don't want to have illegal sex, so you find a woman and you have sex. That's really it. That there's no particular sacrament of marriage the way we have in Christianity. And women are baby producing machines because women aren't smart enough to work. Women aren't not allowed to lead. Women are stupid, right? Women may not bear responsibility. Women may not leave the house. So under strict Sharia law, this is unfortunately the case. So yeah, there's very little benefit to women doing things in Islam and in Islamic world. Um, they'll say, for instance, that women go to university. Women, that's the reason that, for instance, in the Islamic world, women go to university and get so many degrees is because they can't do anything else. And when they come out, they don't go work because "Hey, my daughter has a degree. She's a doctor. Let's find her a nice husband." And then she gets married, and that's it. Done. Not so much for the degree. So yeah, so there's a bit of an issue within the modern Islamic world there. But a man's responsibility to a
I have a
woman is
question
not.
for you,
Yeah,
Lloyd.
sure.
I had a question for you, and probably this is a question for me to actually understand, right? Now,
Hmm.
I guess that many Muslims, you know, lie, but I would like to believe that not all Muslims lie. I would like to believe that there are Muslims that actually just don't know.
Look,
However,
there's many don't know.
now,
I mean, you didn't know,
yeah,
right? But if
yeah,
you are
no,
repeating
no,
a lie, even if you don't know it's a lie, are you telling the truth?
no, definitely not.
Well, there you
I,
go.
I had a question. So, a woman like Manal Omar, you know, how does she believe that? How does she come to a conclusion whereby she's saying, looking at all the sources and all the stuff that we've gone through, how does she come to this conclusion that Islam was one of the first, uh, to a certain extent, a feministic movement?
Because
How
she's
did she
got a
come to
false
that?
view of every other culture and she has a false view. First, she's been fed a false view of Christianity as totally evil, of the West as totally evil, and Islam is presented in a false light to her as well. So she's believing two sets of lies. And so she has a
But
false
she
view of Islam
expressed,
and a false view of Christian and Western life.
okay, as so she expressed and she showed herself as somewhat of a scholar. And one of the things that was troubling to me is that if I've got eyes and if I've got hands to open up a book and read, I come across this will be I will raise questions. And she expressed the fact that she opens up books and Islamic sources and she has been reading. If she's been reading for herself, what goes on? This of course is a
What is she
very
really reading?
difficult
If you
question
read through
to
Islam
ask.
QA and when they quote things, they don't quote the Sharia, they don't give you the page number, they don't give you the book name. They'll say, "This scholar said," okay, where? What book? Show me the book. Where's the link to the book? Can I read the book? Where's the laws? Where's the actual laws? Not the opinions. This scholar said, yeah, he said it. He was totally wrong. He was a random scholar. No one cares about his opinion. He did say it, but fine. It's like saying, but Judas said. Like, who cares what he said? His word isn't law. So it's who. Look, I mean, when you have so many ways of lying, and remember, she goes against then she's going to be punished for it. And also, if she knows it, she must follow it. And it's so many layers and layers of deception, deceit, confusion. And
So
why don't you?
are you suggesting that many Muslim scholars may not even know these sources?
I'd say that there's a strong possibility because there are different levels of scholars, and some are very low level. So yes, many may not, and of those that do know may lie because they don't want the truth out. Because remember, they need to keep the peace, and the truth will drive people out and away from Islam. So yeah, I'm going to
So
start calling it the night here, guys. Yeah.
yeah, just a last story here. I was actually recently speaking to an uncle of mine. He's in Australia. He's somewhat of an extremist. One of the things that I brought out to him was the whole issue of beating women, right? And he started like dodging the issue, and I expressed to him, I was like, whenever I talk to you, you either don't answer the question and you start talking about literally everything on planet Earth, and when you try and do address the issue, you completely throw the Quran out of the window. So my thing was this: okay, is Surah 434 applicable, and why is it allowed that women must be beaten in Islam? And he said to me that no, that's a cultural thing. We don't practice that today. So I was like, okay, so you're suggesting that there are things in the Quran that you don't practice. He was like, yes. So I was like, okay, then why? How much of the Quran don't you practice? Because there's a lot of weird things in there. And he was like, Ish, he doesn't know. So he said to me that, then eventually the conversation led to a place where I was like, so would you suggest that to throw out those portions of the Quran and just kind of recreate and reform the Quranic text altogether? And he was like, no, 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 can't do that. And I was like, but then how do you give an answer to this? Because none of the scholars actually agree with you that it was a cultural thing. People actually agree that women beating of women is a valid exercise and practice to this day. And he said to me, and this is very interesting, I'd like to hear your thoughts on this. He said this to me. He said, I have blind faith. Those are literally his words. He said that
Um,
he has blind faith. What?
you're required. Now, I've
And I
discussed
don't.
this with you before. On our first show, I discussed this and I went through those actual laws. I'm not going to go through them at length, but you are required in Islam to have blind faith because you are what's called this is called taqlid. Okay, it's called taqlid. It's following, it's imitation. You are a mukallid. In other words, you have chosen to obey, right? Because the intellect cannot comprehend Islam. You simply, and the scholars are the ones who are above you. They are the heirs of Muhammad's power and authority. You need to listen to them. So you are mukallaf as a Muslim, and what that means is that you are obligated, you are under the obligations of the laws of Allah. So you are then compelled to obey. Now, you then have to obey completely and utterly without any doubt. You must have no doubt. And if you do have doubt, then a scholar is supposed to take you and show you the tafsir, right? To show you the reasoning of the scholars to convince you. But again, as I said, with as for the Sharia, that's off limits to your average Muslim. And
Yeah,
so this is the basic thing. And also it says that you see the intellect is considered insufficient within Islam and the Sharia outweighs the intellect. So if any matter is to be decided, the consensus of the scholars has already decided what it is, and the Sharia trumps reason. Reason and your concept of natural law does not count. What counts is what the Sharia says. I've covered this before. I mean, I did this specifically,
yeah.
so
Interesting. Well, thank you so much for your time, Lloyd. I've taken 13 minutes extra. You can send me the
yeah,
bill.
yeah. Someone mentioned something, and someone asked something about women are owned, and sorry, let me go back here. I want to find something. Someone asked me about is it allowed, and I'm just trying to find the. Um, I'm trying to find the law actually, but it's about retaliation. So, a father is allowed to kill his children, right? So a father is certainly
Okay.
allowed to kill his children, and a grandfather is allowed to kill the grandchildren if they are going to be causing dishonor. Someone mentioned something and it came up. So yes, this is allowed. I think it's section 01.2 within the Sharia, right? So there is no penalty for doing so, right? So there is no penalty for father or grandfather. So in other words, you can kill your children if you think there is going to be dishonor that is brought upon the family. So in that sense, a child can be killed as if it is property. And when I
Hmm.
say child, it doesn't mean the child is 5. You know, it's your child, and the father can kill the adult child. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. So yeah, in terms of property, yes, if you can kill it, if you can kill your child without penalty, without any legal penalty, if a grandfather or father can kill the child or the grandchild, then yes, that child is property. Yeah. Okay,
Okay.
so I'll call it at that.
Yeah, we're gonna call it a night. Next week we're going to start evaluating a debate that took place between um, Hatun Tash, another Christian apologist, and Sheikh, what was his name? Sheikh Asrar. Yeah, Sheikh Asrar. And the debate was about the choice, right? Christianity and Islam, the choice. That's what it was called about. That's what it was called. And so there was, there was a lot of things that was said, and so I think that Lloyd and I are going to look at a few issues within there, and so we'll just have like a live chat on the issue as well. So
Yeah,
please join us next week. It'll be a fantastic, insightful discussion.
yeah,
Um, and we definitely would love questions and engagement from the audience as well.
yeah.
So be
I
with
want to
us and
do,
we'll join us
yeah.
next week, Monday. Yeah.
Thanks. I want to mention there is no retaliation. The following are not subject to retaliation. And it says here, a father or mother or their fathers or mothers for killing their offspring or their offspring's offspring. So just note, it is legal for a father or mother to kill their own children within Islam. This is law. It's right there. Yeah. So anyway, guys, I'll call it a night. Speak to people about this. DHC, I can verify, was recently with the murder of his 2 teenagers. He has eluded law enforcement for 2 years. Yes, agreed. So, guys, yeah, this is a very, very different view of life. Many imams know only the ritualistic aspect of Islam. Is to go to Al Azhar and get the PhD doctorate, will never see the materials or the foundation of Islam. They know. Yeah, well, I mean, anyone can read it. I read this stuff. I'm as knowledgeable as any imam, and probably more so at this point. I've had people who study this stuff tell me I'm probably at like master's or PhD
Yeah.
level in this stuff by now. So, guys, thank you very much.
Sheikh
Yeah,
Lloyd.
yeah. No, I've had some legitimate guys tell me, dude, you know as much as any seminary student, if not more. So
Last
good.
thing, we can be as effective with the help of many more. If you guys would share these videos and just spread this information, it would
Yeah,
definitely help. Please subscribe, like the video, and please definitely leave lots and lots of comments.
yeah.
Thank you,
Okay,
guys.
guys.
See you
Thanks,
all.
guys. I will see you on Friday. I'm doing a show with Stephen Gilchrist. We'll be doing part 2 of Islamic apologetics and dealing with that. And we'll be back with Shamoun next week. All right.
Okie dokes. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.